The gross discrepancy in how much some schools earn through their foundations and PTAs and how much some schools don't. So this extra augmented funding that some of these schools in Newport are getting an additional $500,000 a year. That's a fundamentally different education when you have another $500,000 to work with than if you don't. So just seeing those kind of elements in the budget, seeing the salaries of a large administrative staff, I am very curious about these different administrative positions, and seeing, for instance, during the COVID time, the way that they were talking about, we're gonna have to tighten our belts, but no one was talking about taking a salary cut. But that was never on the table. They were just telling us all about how much belts would have to be tightened for kids, yet no one's saying a peep about the large amount of administrative belts that weren't gonna be touched.
Good morning. My name is Sandy Asper, and this morning I'm interviewing Leah Ersoylu. Leah is running for the school board in Newport-Mesa in Area 1, but she's not going to tell you about herself.
Sure. Hi, Sandy. Yes, so I am running for Newport-Mesa Area 1, which is basically the area of Mesa Verde and also Halecrest across Harbor, and that zone has about 6 schools. It has Estancia, Tewinkle, Adams, California, Killiebrook, and Early College High School.
And you were born, I love this part, you were born in New Hampshire, so a fellow New Englander, right?
Yes.
And you went to, I think you went to Colby College, which is the college I always wanted to go to, and because I'm from Maine. And you went to the University of New Hampshire, and you majored in?
Resource economics.
And then you came to California and married a very cute guy. And
I'll tell him you said that.
Yeah, no, I'm sure he'll hear me. And then you went to UCI and you majored in?
Yeah, so I came here to California in 1999, and I worked on my PhD is in political science with a focus on public policy.
Okay, so you have a doctorate. So because you're running for the board, I kind of like to talk to you about what's going on right now. And there's a lot going on, obviously, in this district. And one of the things going on is that the teachers are going, a lot of the teachers and people and parents too, are going to be doing this caravan and against, starting school at this time and so on. So I kind of want to know how you feel about that.
No, I absolutely understand the frustration. It is a frustrating time. It is a difficult time for everybody right now, but I feel that the past 3-4 months have been made more difficult by the way that our district has handled the whole reentry, returning back to in-person or virtual. There has just been so much, I don't want to say miscommunication, I want to say late communication or incomplete communication, and a lot of feelings of back and forth. And so I absolutely understand why tomorrow folks are going to do that caravan, because the frustration level is so high, given that folks don't feel there are adequate procedures in place to go back safely. Everyone wants to be in school. I desperately want my daughter back in school, but and you can't go back until it's safe. And if the people who are supposed to be working there aren't feeling that it's safe, then there needs to be some conversations about how to make sure that's 100% ready to go. And as a parent, the back and forth that we experienced, the lack of surveying us, we were never asked preferences or this or that. It was just, will you go to school in our 3-step plan, or will you go to the cloud school? And to me, that's not that decision was sort of forced upon parents to just make a quick A or B, and then we made that choice, and there we were. But I think a lot of those parents that weren't ready to go back still chose that 3-step plan in the hopes that it would be able to accommodate them. But I, back when we were given that choice, I chose the cloud because with my existing health conditions, and I didn't want to deal with the back and forth, and I honestly didn't trust that it would be safe enough. So I chose the cloud through June, and that's where I'm at, but I didn't want to. No one that I know in the cloud that's with me, no one that I know that chose it wanted to. It was, we needed to, because we didn't really have an alternate choice that was safe enough.
Right.
So I feel for those parents that now are feeling that it's not appropriate for them to go back yet. But what's more upsetting is that now I'm hearing these whispers of, oh, well, we're going to be able to accommodate those families that aren't ready to go back yet. And it's like, then why am I in the cloud? My daughter should be at her home school with her friends and be accommodated for. So now you're telling me you're going to accommodate the people that held out longer. So it's just, the whole situation is just not smooth. And yes, it's a difficult time, but I feel like this is why we need some folks with some creative ideas on the board. There were ways to work on having some class time outside. Why were we not purchasing a bunch of tents to move some of the classrooms outdoors to be able to spread out the kids? There's so many things.
I understand they're thinking about that.
Yeah.
The tents. Which would be great.
Yeah, my daughter goes to a dance class, and it's outside. Each kid has their own individual tent. They're they're 6 feet apart. You dance under your particular tent, and they're very well spaced out. And if you can do that at a simple dance academy, why can't we do this for our kids so they can learn all day?
Yeah, Leah.
Yes.
So let's get down to the nitty gritty here.
Yeah.
Why are you running? I mean, this is not going to be an easy race. Why are you running?
Yeah, I'm well aware that incumbents win their local elections at 82%. So when as a political scientist, my husband was like, "What are you thinking?" And I thought, I don't have another 4 years. My daughter's, already in 4th grade right now, and there are some things that I think should be worked on in our area in particular right now, and I have the time right now. So I'm just not one for waiting 4 years just because, in the hopes that someone doesn't run again. Then what if they change their mind? So it's like, you don't want to be beholden to someone else's desire to stay or go. It's my time to run, and I wanted to do it now. I have the energy to do it now. My daughter's old enough now. I had the freedom from my company to do it now. So this is when.
Good. Time. It's time. There are a lot of things that have happened in the area that you're running in, and all those schools. I actually did not realize there were so many schools in this district, in your district. So Ensign, I just drove by Ensign yesterday. Ensign is not in any way ready to begin school. The Estancia Theater, you may want to talk about that. Let's talk about Ensign first.
Yeah, the reason I was vocal about Ensign, even though I'm not in that zone, that wouldn't be part of my zone, but you get elected to represent all the kids in the whole district. And frankly, they're seeing that. I actually went to that board meeting with a friend of mine whose kids go to Ensign, and I just went there to support her. But then sitting through that meeting and seeing 18 public comments come through about kids and parents and families that wanted to keep the trees, wanted to find any other way to redesign that parking lot situation. The city of Newport Beach had an alternate plan, and just seeing the way our board took all those comments and then just went in the opposite direction, despite all of these people begging for a different outcome, and just taking out old mature trees when you don't have to do that, it's just not acceptable. It's just not being a good steward of your environment and your land that us as taxpayers have put you in charge of. And I'm not okay with just willy-nilly taking trees out. There's always an alternate way in 2020.
Let's talk about the schools. Yeah, let's talk about the schools that you are responsible for. The Estancia Theater. I really actually don't know very much about that, but can you tell me about that?
Yeah, I only know because, again, most of us don't know because it's not communicated to the public. But what I understand from reading the board minutes, the RFP was approved in like January of 2019. October of 2019, the board approved a schematic of the theater. And that was October 2019. That was the last time it was on the public agenda. So I don't know where it's at. I don't know if it's coming along. I don't know if they plan on public input. But when you're talking about a $32 million investment, I just think of all the public comment and all of the time and outreach that was done when I was a parks commissioner for us to redo the Lions, the library, and the community center over there. That had such significant community input, people weighing in on all different things, all of these open formats. And that was a $40 million investment, right? And this is $32 million. It's not that far off. And there's been crickets. No one knows what's going on.
Yeah.
So there really is a need for more meaningful engagement from people and to understand that, no, you don't need to rip out these mature trees in the front of Estancia where we see kids every single time. I've never driven by Estancia personally and not seen kids congregating under there, hanging out, enjoying nature, which is so rare to come by. You just don't rip out mature trees unless they're dying. Right. There's really just not a good reason for that. You can always be flexible with building around them and factoring that into your plans.
Has your opponent spoken out on that?
I haven't heard her say anything.
Okay. We have a new superintendent, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
So can you tell us a little bit about your feeling about that?
That is interesting. I was very vocal. I think I was in Stu News early on and on the radio show talking about there was no need to give him a 2-year contract, and there was no need to give him that if his contract is terminated clause of 6 months salary. That's $150,000. So that to me was just unnecessary. Just wait, 1 year could have been sufficient. You install the new board, whomever that's going to be, whether I win or lose, there's still going to be a new board. There's 3 seats up this time.
Right.
So it will be a fundamentally different dynamic, even if I'm not elected. So you want to give the new board the chance to put out a nationwide call and choose who they feel is best for the district, not tie people into what is 2 years. And then the great thing, being a political scientist, you don't know much about most things, but what you do know is about institutions. And once a bureaucracy creates an institution or instills someone in a position, it is very hard to get that undone. So they just basically made it very difficult for the next board when they didn't have to.
Do you have any idea why they did this, really?
No,
I think we all have thoughts about that, but do you have any idea?
Yeah, I never want to question someone's intention, only their action. Their action was not correct, in my opinion. I don't know what drove them to do it, but I don't know what drives them to do a lot of things. So I really have no insight into their motivations.
One of the things that happened, and it was a long period of time that it was going on, was the toxic smell at Estancia. And they just ignored it and ignored it and ignored it. And finally, because one of the teachers who was, had illnesses as a result of that, and several people did, they finally decided that they were going to attempt to fix something. I'm not even sure that it's fixed now. I'm not even sure that smell's gone now. So do you know anything about that, or what do you think about it?
Yeah, I had heard of that issue, and to me, those are simple, aren't those OSHA complaints where OSHA should come in, they should fine you, you should fix the problem. Like, these are not really complex things. Problem, solution, move on. And I don't know why things seem to drag out here. It's just, to me, seems to be an organizational kind of issue.
As a trustee, would you have involved yourself in that?
When it gets, pointed out to you, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think the incumbent did until way late in the game. I'm not sure, and I don't know why, because that was serious. There are a lot of things that are misspent in this district, and money is just squandered over a lot of things, but that was a serious, serious problem.
And that's why, just to follow up, that's why I think it's so important as a trustee. I've seen them out. There is part that's, doing the princess wave at events. That's definitely a small fraction of the job, but in my mind, that's a fraction. That is not at all the bulk of the job. The bulk of the job is analyzing the policies, budgets, but also going to the PTA meetings in your zone. Also getting to know and speak regularly with the teachers union to understand what their perspective is. Making sure you know how the principals are feeling at the schools in your zone. So those, to me, are things that would keep your finger on the pulse of what's going on, so that when something like this smell, the toxic smell, comes up, you know what's going on and you can advocate for your schools.
Right. So as I understand it, you would probably go to the schools unannounced, correct?
Yeah.
You wouldn't feel that you had to be announced, or
No.
you would have to get some sort of okay.
I just want to go visit.
Just go visit, and would you do yard duty?
Yeah, that would be fun.
Talk to the kids.
Yes.
Talk to the teachers.
Totally.
So the teachers actually know you.
Yeah.
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 You would plan to do all that.
Because that's how you learn. That's how you learn from people, what they're doing, what they're going through, what things really look like on the ground. Showing up at events, showing up at, bell of the ball game, that doesn't get you the pulse on what's actually happening everywhere. But showing up at lunch duty does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Historically, the way it's been is that the trustees then have to ask or announce that they're going to go, or ask the superintendent. The superintendent, I guess, gives the okay, or somebody in the administration gives their okay, and then the principal is then ready for you to come so that you are shown what they would like you to see. So I'm guessing that you're not going to do that.
That's really not how I roll. I would find a way to just visit.
Yeah.
And I have good communication with the schools that I am involved with. I'm involved with California, where my daughter goes. Well, now she's in the cloud for right now, but we'll be back. And at T-Winkle, I'm actually the EVP of T-Winkle's PTA, so I'm getting to know them more, because it's important to know the schools that are in your surroundings.
I love I love Tewinkle. I think it's a great school. I taught there for a long time. So Leah, let's talk about the budget. So have you even looked at the budget? I mean, it's a gigantic and complicated thing. Is there something that just sticks out?
Yeah, I mean, I picked up my copy, I think, early in January, February, whenever it came out, for last year's budget, and sifted through to try to get a better understanding of it. And for me, a few things jumped out. One was this administrative cost line, which again, I'm unsure what exactly that pertains to, because it's never really discussed in public. But once on the board, I want to find out this administrative cost. One of these line items, it increased double, almost double, from 2016 to 1920. And I'm thinking, like, why? Why would this have needed to jump from like 13,000 to like 13 million to 26 million in a 4-year period? Like, what is driving that? But again, I feel like budgetary transparency is a very important thing, and I feel like as a board member, that's one of the things I want, to draw the community in and understand their budget, because I'm just a regular community member. You know, I read the budget, but there's information that I'm not privy to because I don't have direct access to the CFO to ask him my millions of questions, but I do have them all highlighted in the budget, and I will gladly share it with him if elected. But that another thing that just jumps out to you is the gross discrepancy in how much some schools earn through their foundations and PTAs and how much some schools don't. So this extra augmented funding that some of these schools in Newport are getting an additional $500,000 a year. That's a fundamentally different education when you have another $500,000 to work with than if you don't. So just seeing those kind of elements in the budget, seeing the salaries of a large administrative staff, and just, again, I don't know. I'm not privy to the information that, you know, my opponent's privy to because she's been there for so long. But I am very curious about these different administrative positions, and just seeing, for instance, during the COVID time, the way that they were talking about, you know, we're going to have to tighten our belts, but no one was talking about taking a salary cut. My husband's company and many of my friends' companies, they all management took cuts of 10 to 15%, sometimes 20%. But that was never on the table. They were just telling us all about how much belts would have to be tightened for kids, yet no one's saying a peep about the large amount of administrative belts that weren't going to be touched. So there's just a lot in there, and as just a regular citizen, I mean, I have my ideas, but I don't have access to the CFO that can guide me through, you know, why some of these decisions, maybe they're necessary, but maybe they're not. So there's a lot of digging and talking I want to do once I get in there.
Okay, last question. Why should we vote for you?
I think there's several reasons, but I'm confident that the community is interested in having someone that will safeguard their best interests, you know, be a hawk for their budgetary dollars before a penny is, you know, spent. As a business owner, I'm used to doing that. I'm used to dealing with budgets. I've been on several boards that have large endowments and used to sort of navigating those budgetary issues. But more than that, I mean, I'm committed to kids my whole career. I have a 20-year career. I know you didn't ask me about it, but my entire career has been in social services. I've worked at Boys and Girls Clubs. I've worked at Latino Health Access, where I was a community engagement director. So my entire career has been built around helping children and families live healthy, you know, lives and thrive in their community and in their education. So I just think that at this point in time, it's time for not only the parent perspective, which I would bring, because right now there's only one person on that board who has actual children in the district. So I would be the second one with actual children in the district. But more than that, I also have this 20-year career where I have learned different models and different ways of making sure that kids are best served. And so that to me is something that I can bring to it, but also my work ethic. I've been working, I mean, I wanted to get elected for this position, right? So I've been working since November of last year. I mean, few people will outwork me. So I will work for you in the same way that I work to get elected. So I think anyone that's seen me out working my butt off for the past year now will understand that that's the kind of work ethic you want on your side, looking out for your neighborhood and your schools and your tax dollars. So that's all I can do for you.